Right, so we are now going to study the chapter more about alcoholism. So we've done the history of it, we've done the problem, we've done the solution. Now we're looking how to bring the solution to light. So let's do a little bit of a recap. Tell me, please, people, what is the problem? Anybody?
It's twofold illness.
Okay, tell me more.
We have the obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body.
Okay, can you tell me more about the obsession of the mind? How does it occur? What happens?
We feel restless, irritable, discontent.
The hole in the soul, okay?
We need to soothe that with usually a desire for drink or drugs.
That's right. I mean, we have a desire to soothe how it feels.
Yeah.
We know there might be consequences because when we, at the end of our using and drugging and drinking, we know that something happens to us and there are consequences attached to it. So we don't necessarily want to pick up a drink or a drug or food or sex, but it feels like we haven't got a choice. So we have a desire to soothe how it feels, and because we don't have a solution, we keep going back into the same, the insanity, doing the same thing all over again, expecting a different outcome. So when I pick up and I give in to that desire, what happens?
The phenomenon of craving begins.
Okay, the physical allergy and all the bets are off. You can't stop. Okay, tell me, what is the solution?
The steps.
Yeah! What happened as a result of the 12 steps?
Had a spiritual awakening or a psychic change or a personality change.
That's right. Whichever you want. Doesn't matter what it is called. Doesn't matter how you want to identify it. A change. This is the key of this program. It's a change. Something is going to change in you. Okay? So, you've done the program. The change has occurred. You're sober. You are recovered. And we will see later on step 10 what it means to be recovered. Right? So now you're recovered, but you're still an asshole. You still act on your defect of character. How do I go from being sober, recovered, to emotionally recovered when I'm at peace, when I'm aligned, when I'm connected?
The design for living, which is carrying the message and practicing principles and assets.
That's right. So you carry and you practice. You carry the message to other people. No matter when you finish the program, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the program. Do not let anybody tell you need to be 12 months in the program to start carrying the message. Bill W. was only 6 months sober when he realized that in order to save himself, he had to carry the message. And they told us already, we must carry the message. So when you understand the problem, the solution, and you completed the 164 pages of the big book, then you need to carry the message. Right. So, we're going to look now at chapter 3, more about alcoholism.
Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people.
Can you highlight? Countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people.
The idea that somehow, someday, people can control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death.
Can you highlight? Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death.
We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys, and individually I want you to answer to me. Okay, there is a very simple question. Have you fully conceded to your innermost selves that you were alcoholic addicts?
Yes.
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 But I constantly question it.
You constantly... Okay, so what do you mean?
That I sometimes wonder whether I can control and enjoy my drinking.
Okay. Have you identified, can you identify with the cheerful illness?
Yes.
Yes.
Completely.
So you have to literally, this time around, you have to admit. And if you identify with the two-fold illness, the chances of you being able to use or drink will never happen.
Yes. I get it.
You get it?
Yes. But I still have it at the back of my head.
You still have it in the back of your head. So, okay, at this moment in time, we are just saying, okay, I've considered that I have a problem.
Yes.
So if we do this and if we admit that we have a problem, then that is the first step in recovery. Because hopefully what will happen to you as we carry and as we walk the program through, that change we talk about that is necessary is going to occur. Okay, so fear not. It might still be there in the back of your head, but as we walk the program through, that change will occur. I have no doubt in my mind. So, could you please, first of all, use your special color, the special color, and can you highlight first step? And then I want you to use any other color, and I want you to highlight, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic. This is the in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. And tell me, people, what is the principle of step one?
Honesty.
That's right, honesty. And what you've just done here, you've been honest with yourself, and with us as a little group. You're telling us, yes, I can identify with the two-fold illness. And I can say, yes, I know I have a problem, but in the back of my head, there's still that little nagging voice telling me maybe next time you can do it. And that is being honest. Okay, go ahead.
We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control.
And that word, ever, is in italic. It's expensive. But can you highlight all of this? We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. So I hear people at meetings say, well, I'm a true alcoholic, I'm a real alcoholic. So what do they mean then when they say a real alcoholic?
They're hopeless.
The hopeless type. And can you tell me what is the classification, if you wish, of the hopeless type?
The obsession as the twofold.
The two-fold illness, that's right. It's a person who has a two-fold illness.
You might have also tried other methods and found that they failed.
I've tried all of them. As I said, I've tried the medication, I've tried the hospital, I've tried jail, I've tried psychiatric hospital, psychotherapy, psychiatry, whatever it was, I've tried it all. Nothing worked for me. And that's what it says initially now in the preceding chapters. It says that sometimes psychiatrists cannot work with us. It's just impossible for them to work with us. Okay?
All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better.
Can you highlight? We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over a considerable period, we get worse, never better. That was my experience. Each time I said, this time around it's going to be different. The consequences were worse.
We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse.
Can you highlight? In some instances, there's been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. And I just want to come back quickly with our step one here. So this is our step one, by the way, people. And it doesn't ask us to write an essay. We're not being asked to write a life story. All we've asked is one simple question. Have you admitted that you have a problem, yes or no? You might still have some reservation in the back of your head, just like as you explained. But you have admitted there might be a problem. This is all you need to make your beginning. We need to be very clear about that, okay?
Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet.
Can you highlight? Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet.
Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they are in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to them. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. Here are some of the methods we have tried. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, swearing off forever, with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum.
Okay, just quickly, can you identify with this?
Yes.
Yeah, because I used to change a glass of wine, a glass of water, whiskey, and a glass of wine and a glass of water, a little bit of food. Oh, no, alcohol. You know, the spirits, that's the problem. I'm going to only have beer now. And for some reason, each time I had one beer, I ended up with a bottle of vodka in the other end. So I've tried all of this too. Doesn't work.
We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself.
That's right. Can you highlight? We do not like to pronounce any individuals as alcoholics, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. So do not ever tell people they're alcoholics or drug addicts. Allow them to make that decision for themselves. Share about the truthful illness, and if they can identify with the truthful illness, they might be the hopeless type, but they might not.
Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Try to drink and stop abruptly. Try it more than once. It will not take long for you to decide if you are honest with yourself about it. It may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. But the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. We have heard of a few instances where people who showed definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so. Here is one.
Okay, can you go back? We're able to stop for a long period because an overpowering desire to do so. So, what it says here in the story that we're going to read is sometimes, I'm going to tell you a story. My uncle, so in my father's side of the family, they all died from alcoholism. My uncle was also a raging alcoholic, and he started his own business. That's the story we're going to read. And it's incredible because what he did for a number of years, for about 30 years, he didn't drink as he was running the company. And I remember because when I was a kid, I was working with him during the summer. Never touched a tear of alcohol. And when he sold the business, he started to drink again. And he died. And read the story now. See what it says.
A man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55, after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. In 2 months he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found that he could not. Every means of solving his problem, which money could buy, was at his disposal. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4
Can
years.
you highlight the robust man at retirement? He went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years, and that is exactly the same story. And to be honest with you, I have no doubt in my mind if tomorrow I was going to pick up a drink or a drug, exactly the same thing would happen to me.
Mm-hmm. This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remained sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. But here is a man who at 55 years found he was just where he had left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Can you highlight, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic? So why do you think we use that phrase? What is the true component?
It's the body.
That's right, the allergy of the body. So if you have a peanut allergy and we don't have a cure for peanut allergy, you will always be allergic to peanut, to nuts. It's the same. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, because you will always have the physical allergy, the physical component, until such day we find a cure for it.
Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we're in a short time as bad as ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol.
Okay, can you highlight this? And that is a little bit controversial, what I'm going to be saying. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, no any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. And that's one thing that I hear often in meetings, like just a day at a time. Just for today, you don't drink. Tomorrow, you might be able to drink. And I found this actually, it bothers me a little bit, because when I work with others, I need to make sure that they understand they cannot drink ever if they have the physical allergy. If they have the truthfulness, the chances of them relapsing and having more consequences attached to their relapse and probably could be death, is really important. They need to understand that. So if I was going to say to people, well, tomorrow you might drink, so just today, just focus for today, tomorrow doesn't matter. I'm leaving them a little bit of space in their mind to think, and maybe tomorrow they'll be able to control their drink. So for me, it's never a day at a time. It's for life. And if you've had enough consequences, then you'd be probably ready to say, okay, now that's it, I'm done.
There's a newcomers meeting in my hometown that has a very strong message that gets said by multiple people every week, and I think it's in their intro as well, that if try it for 30 days and if you don't like it, you can return to drinking, which is obviously, for some people, that could mean they just go out and die.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that's really, really important, that when we work with others, if they are a hopeless type, we need to be clear that they will never be able to drink like other people, ever.
Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think they can stop, as he did, on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking for 20 years. To be gravely affected, One does not necessarily have to drink a long time nor take the quantities some of us have.
That's right. So can you highlight all of this? So several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, have been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless, as those who have been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. And here I have a name of somebody I work with. And that person, interestingly enough, is part of those people. So why do you think that person is a little bit different from some of us in terms of their alcoholism?
Craving starts.
Bingo. The phenomenon of craving starts nearly immediately in their drinking careers. Most of us, it's a progressive illness. Remember Bill's story? You know, it took a number of years for the progression of the illness to become unmanageable and for him to say, that's it, I can't do this anymore. Some people, the phenomenon of craving kicks it nearly immediately. And these people, generally speaking, don't do the socialized drinking that we do. They isolate to do their drinking. And that person is typical of that. So because they're young, they think that can't be. But the bottom line, if the phenomenon of craving develops immediately, then that's it. Are we agreeing on that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years.
Okay, just to be clear, the book was written between 1934 and 1939. It was written by men for men, mainly, and because there were only 4 women. So just bear in mind the text and the words that are being used. Don't be offended. That's what I'm saying.
Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished at their inability to stop. We, who are familiar with the symptoms, see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try and get them to see it. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving alcohol alone for 1 year. If he a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is a scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will drink the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether.
Can you highlight? So for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. And can you write on the side, RTFM, read the fucking manual. This book is going to tell you precisely how they have recovered. Why would you want to do it any other way?
We are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There were a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish.
Can you highlight please? This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish.
How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers, and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the program. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking?
Okay, can we just go back up at the top and highlight? So we shall describe some of the mental state that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem.
Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He has a commendable World War record. He is a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He is an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he had become so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. We told him that we knew of what we knew of alcoholism, and the answer we had found. He made a beginning.
Stop, can you highlight? He made a beginning. So what does it mean, you think he made a beginning? Well, we need to have the context, because actually later on you will say, so here the context is he made a beginning, he completed the program. Because you'll see what it says next.
His family was reassembled and began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession.
Can you highlight, please? All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. Can you underline, he failed to enlarge his spiritual life? What does that mean?
He's not doing the design for living.
He didn't practice the design for living. So often, I hear people come back from a relapse at meetings. And they say, well, I stopped coming to meetings. That's why I relapse. And I will argue that this might be one of the reasons. But the real reason why people go back into active addiction is because they're not carrying the message. They're not practicing the assets and the principle. And I've seen it again and again and again and again.
Yeah. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed that he was a real alcoholic and in a serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had a deep affection. Yet he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned.
Stop. Can you tell me what is the key word here?
Irritated.
That's right. So we're restless, irritated, and discontent. So when I'm irritated, I feel the hole in the soul. I want to sue. So what do? If I don't have a solution, or if I'm not practicing the design for living, you're going to pick up.
Yep.
You're going to act out. And it can be with anger, it can be with your defect of character, but very quickly you're going to go back into one of the symptoms.
I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I had been going to it for years. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at a table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk.
And just for, if you had any reservation about him having completed the program, he's telling us that he'd been sober for a while. So basically, we would assume specifically at the beginning when they started to carry the message, they used to carry the message in 4 weeks. Okay, so it's quite clear here. It completed the program. It was recovered, but he failed to practice the design for living.
Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk. I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into the milk. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another.
Okay, can you highlight all of this, please? Suddenly the thought crossed my mind, but if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. Highlight all of this too, but didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. So what happened to him?
Craving stuff.
The phenomenon of craving, that's it. And so when the phenomenon of craving kicks in, all the bets are off.
Ugh, whiskey and milk.
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
Well, yes. Also, it sounds bad, doesn't it?
Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, and to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor for the foolish idea that he could take whiskey only if he mixed it with milk.
Can you highlight, please? So he had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, so he knew the truthful illness. He knew all of this, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor.
Shifting between this idea of accepting and then rejecting and then believing it, but maybe I can get away with it. And like, I find that that's sort of where my head goes often. And at the moment, like the only thing, because I don't want to be an alcoholic, because all of my family was alcoholics, right? And I used to be that terrible person. They have a problem, they have a problem, they have a problem, they have a problem. So for me to accept that, it really choked me, like at the beginning in the meetings. I didn't say it at the beginning, now I say it. Like, I prefer addict in a way. The explanation and the obsession of the mind, that, in that sense, like that resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still come, like every now and again, I still think I must be able to, and I'll go, I'll just go to the pub with my book and I'll have one pint, and I'll play that out for a bit. And I don't know if that means I'm just a bit delusional and like going backwards and forwards between this, or whether it's because I haven't fully accepted step one.
I don't believe that's the case. I believe you have accepted. I don't have any doubt in my mind that you have accepted.
Okay.
We had a conversation about that the other day. I have no doubt in my mind that you have accepted. But, accepted doesn't mean that, it's going to be all dory-dory and it's going to be all wonderful. Accepting that there is an issue and there is a problem is not the solution in itself.
Yeah.
It's the first step in your recovery, but it's not the whole solution.
Yeah.
So accepting is like, I admit. 2 birds on a wire. One bird made a decision to fly away. How many birds are left on the wire?
Oh, it's 2 still, isn't it?
It's still 2.
Yeah.
That's it. A bird made a decision to fly away, but he hasn't flown away. So you have, in your own way, you have accepted. You are also believing that there is a solution or there is hope. Otherwise, you will not be with us right now.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that, you are making a decision.
Yeah.
Because you're living in a solution, you're not living in a problem, right? Just right now, in that minute, you're living in a solution. And all of this is beautiful. That's your foundation. But this is not enough yet. You need to get to the end of the program. When we get at the end of the program, when we get to page 164, I will ask you the question, how are you feeling now? About that doubt that you had when we started on the More About Alcoholism chapter. Do you remember how you felt. You still were not quite sure. I promise you, you're going to feel so different. It's going to be completely different because by then that obsession will be relieved. And then you know.
I think as well, I went through a phase similar to yours, Robert, a few years ago now. And then I also came to the conclusion that, you know, because I'd obsess about it, I'd say, right, well, I'll go and I'll just do this, and this is fine because blah, blah, blah. And it consumed up half my mind, convincing myself that it was okay. But I think that just enforces that it's a problem because, you know, normal people, I don't mean normal people, but people who aren't like us, they don't say, right, I'm just going to do this, I'm doing that. They just go and do it because they've got that safety that nothing's going to go tits up. Whereas I would plan everything, and it's like, it's just clear that there was a problem. You know?
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. And you know what? You have to express and you have to verbalize all of this. It's important.
Well, weirdly, I realised that I didn't answer the question when we were talking, and you know, so I was just like, I need to talk about that. So thank you very much. And yeah, my hope really is that once we're through the steps, then it will all like hopefully it will click a bit more. So yeah, thanks.
And
Give me some hope.
You see, it's already clicking. The beautiful thing about this program is you don't, as you take the steps yourself, you're not realizing it. You're not seeing it. You might feel changes, but you can't see it as much as the person who carries the message. Because when you carry the message, this is where you see it, you feel it, you know it's happening. And you're like, fuck, this is happening. And you guys are just like, oh no, nothing is happening because I haven't felt it. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea. You have no clue. Because it is happening. And this is the beautiful gift. This is so fucking magical. And yet, as I always say, I have no idea how. I just know it's happening and it's working. So just, stay with us on the journey. Nothing to lose anyway. Nothing.
No, 100%.
And I promise you, you're on your way already. You're on your way. All right, Chris, welcome.
We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control.
Okay, can you highlight it?
It's italic because it's expensive.
Italic, it's expensive. So I want you to highlight all of this and ever in a different color, please. And you know what, when we talk about the hopeless type or the real alcoholic, so if you go to a meeting or you're on an online meeting and somebody says, my name is, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, or I'm a real alcoholic, or a hopeless alcoholic, listen, because I believe these people might have a message for you guys. Because you know what, the hopeless type, we know the hopeless type is the twofold illness. The real alcoholic has a twofold illness. The recovered alcoholic knows he has a twofold illness. Okay, continue, please.
All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. Yeah. Oh yeah. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better.
Okay, can you highlight? We are convinced, human, that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better.
We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse.
Can you highlight? In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Who can identify with that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, you know what? I didn't, as you said earlier, Grace, you know what? I've been amazed. This week I've been great. I didn't use coke. I didn't drink. I can do this, surely. I can't be an alcoholic anyway, because an alcoholic drinks every day. They start in the morning and, they're dependent. Well, as we know, that's bullshit. You don't have to be dependent to be an alcoholic. You can be actually dependent and not being an alcoholic either. You see,
it's still on my mind. It's on my mind always, there in the back.
And then, of course, yes, it will be in the back of your mind, and I think it's a good thing that it is in the back of your mind, because when I keep saying to people, it's not because you are dependent to alcohol or drugs that you are necessarily an addict or an alcoholic. They're like, oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe, maybe I was just one of those people who was dependent and that's it, but I'm not an alcoholic. And the thing is, it's good to be questioning yourself. But in your heart,
I'm not questioning. There's no question about it.
but in your heart, you know the answer. You know
Oh
the
yeah.
answer in your
No, I know I am. I know.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. In some instances, physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet.
Then you highlight.
Oh yeah.
Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. And you know what? Even if I was offered a medication to make me a normal drinker, I would not take it.
Really?
I just wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because you see, with alcohol comes the headaches. It's expensive. I went to meet a friend yesterday for dinner, and we met in a pub, in a gay bar in central London, and I had a soda water. And generally, all of these are really bloody expensive. It's more expensive to have a sparkling water than the beer. So
Why? Yeah.
I know
It's mocktails as well. Why are mocktails the same price as some of these?
it's fucking crazy.
Cocktails?
So it's expensive, and you get a fucking headache. So even if I could drink today, I don't need it. I don't want it.
Mm.
Yep.
I'm yet to get to that stage. If I got offered a pill saying I could just be a normal drinker user, I think I'm still in that mindset where I'd be like, oh yeah. But
Maybe, but trust me, very quickly you will get bored with it, because remember, we used and we drank to soothe the hole in the soul.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that hole in the soul anymore, you won't have.
Yeah.
You need it.
Well, and also the pill, if we're going to use that analogy, the pill will address the use of alcohol, but it won't touch that hole.
That's it.
You know what I mean? So it's like
yes, all right. We might not be going on 3-day benders, but we're still drinking
You will
every day.
be fucking miserable anyway. Like a lot of people who've completed the program, who have been to AA, and the obsession has been relieved, but they don't live by the design for living. They don't carry the message. They don't practice the principle and the asset, and they're fucking miserable. So, anyway, okay.
Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they are in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. Here are some of the methods we have tried. Drinking beer only, limiting the amount of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, swearing off forever with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum. We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself.
Okay, can you highlight? We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. So it happened often when I'm asked, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And I'm like, I can't answer that question. I just can't. I don't know. Only you know. But if you can identify with the twofold illness, with the obsession of the mind, and how maybe it's you've used different coping mechanism as a child in order to overcome the fact that something was not quite right with you. And you know that after a while, drinking or using becomes a time where you've lost control and you go into binges and you off for a few days, then the chances are you might be one of us. But only you can answer that question. I can't.
Would you, if someone asked you that question, would you always reply with, "I can't answer that"?
Yep.
Even if you'd observed them.
Oh yeah.
Because there's loads of times I've observed people and I've said to myself, definitely got a problem. Definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
You must know.
I can, yeah. Often I know. As I said, I went on a date with a guy, and we went on that date, and I told him, I said, I don't drink, and he had 2 bottles of wine for dinner.
Himself.
For dinner, he had 2
Wow.
bottles of wine. At the end of dinner, it was nice. He wasn't drunk. It was nice. It was lovely. But I knew that.
But the fact that he wasn't drunk, I mean, come
I
on.
knew I wasn't, I didn't know if he was an alcoholic or no, but I knew this man didn't belong in my life as such, as a partner or even as a friend, because if he has 2 bottles of wine for one dinner with a stranger that he has hardly met, it's like, okay, I think
And
we're not going
didn't
to be
appear drunk.
compatible. We're not going to
Yeah.
be compatible. And also, I just feel like 2 bottles of wine is already, to me, it's already way beyond the 2 glasses or 3 glasses.
And isn't it true the fact that he didn't seem intoxicated is probably because he's used to drinking a lot more, right?
Probably. But remember again, some people can be heavy drinkers. Some people can be physically dependent. It doesn't mean they are alcoholics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not our job to say if you are or if you're not.
Okay.
Our job is to carry the message, carry the similarities. And to me, the similarities is not how I was drinking or what I was drinking. To me, the similarities is, do you have that obsession of the mind, and do you have that physical craving occurring when you start? And that to me are the similarity that I'm looking at. I never talk about alcohol or drugs. Never. I talk about, the obsession of the mind, the hole in the soul. I talk about the coping mechanism. I talk about, my defect of character, my flaws. I talk also about the allergy. When I start, I can't stop. I'm a blackout drinker at the end. But at the beginning, I was just, there were just few consequences. And initially it was funny. There were funny consequences, but it was very progressive, very slow. And then it was like, the phenomenon of craving occurred all the time. You see, I didn't have to talk about the drinks or the what type of booze I was drinking or the drugs. I talked about something different. And this is what I generally, try to identify with others. And if they can identify with me, I'm generally 100% sure they're probably one of us. But again, it's for them to identify themselves. Okay.
You can quickly diagnose.
Robert?
Yeah, do you mind? Because it's quite, it feels quite important for me in a way, and just relates to what I was just saying. Because when, I'm talking about that difficulty of acknowledging being an alcoholic, because I don't, in part, because I've used that word against other people and the stigma and stuff. But it's really interesting, like, and I guess like really quite clear to me. I wrote it down, in fact, before you were just talking about what you were all talking about. And like, if I ask the question differently, like, am I restless, irritable, and discontent? Like, absolutely, and when you were talking about like, how, in a way, how you get someone to reflect upon, do they find themselves in this position of like great discomfort, loneliness, hole of the soul, and is that something they've experienced for a long time? Do they find ways to soothe that? I mean, like, that question, I'm like, absolutely, that's me.
There we are. Bingo.
Like that doesn't. I have a question around alcohol. I don't know why, but like, if I push that to one side just for a moment, as a word, the format that you're talking about, that process, that soothing, that, like, I mean, I've seen that play out so many times. Like, and I'm like, I'm not. It's almost a light bulb moment, but I'm like, come on, Robert, cannot be serious. Like, you know, I know that inside out. That's why I was there on Wednesday. Like, anything, something, like, and so yeah, that's, I appreciate that. It's just hit me pretty
I know,
hard. So
and
thank
it's brilliant because you see, this is again when we talk about the educational variety. We need that conversation. We need you to really grasp with it. Really, okay, this is why I can identify with that, but I'm still not sure if I'm an alcoholic. You see, we need to start somewhere. Because
Yeah.
that's the tools, that's our tools, and this is the amazing, people keep talking about the amazing bag of tools, and people are like, well, I'm like, okay, tell me, what are the tools exactly? What exactly are the tools, that bag of tools, or the steps? Well, yeah, they're a part of it. Because remember, the steps, it's just one job for the steps, is to remove the obsession of the mind. But when you have doubts like that, like yourself, well, where are the other tools? We need more tools because you see, we've just done step one right now. Yeah, you admitted, but yet there's still a part of you that is still like, yeah, I admitted, but yet there's that yet thingy. So it's great when we're able to have that conversation and say, okay, let's look at it, when we were young. To me, it is an illness. It is a predisposition. I was born with it. It didn't mean that because I was born with it, I was predestined to be an alcoholic. I believe there were also other factors that came into consideration, psychological, environmental, a lot of other factors came into the equation and created the beautiful addict that I am. But I have to also remember, what did I do when I was a child? Because if I was born with it, I was born with that hole in the soul. I knew something was different with me. Since I was a child, something was odd and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I found different coping mechanisms in order to make me feel better. And then the drugs and the alcohol and the antidepressant and the sleeping tablets and the hospital and blah, 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 all the rest came along. But as a child, how did I cope with it? And what I did, I developed coping mechanism. And you have to remember, when I was a child, what did I do? How did I deal with it? Did you feel that way also? Did you feel something was odd about you? Something was different, but you couldn't put your finger on it? What about you,
What
Jess?
was it?
Yeah, 100%. I always felt like an outsider, always. The first time that I felt like I truly belonged somewhere was when I finally got to AA and people were talking about how different they felt. And that was just huge for me because I was finally somewhere that I belonged. I finally understood. Okay, that's why I feel different. And these people all get it,
And you see what they get? It's the hole in the soul. That's the hole in the soul. It's that thing like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I feel there's an emptiness. Something, and I can't tell you what it is. Tell me what's wrong. Go to the doctor and we're going to talk to the doctor and tell him what's wrong. And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what's wrong with
You know
me.
what? Since this program, I've never heard the word hole in the soul, the irritable, and that's hit me. This is all new to me because now, whenever I feel it, I actually go, right, this is it.
You
This
feel
is
it.
it happening
You
in
feel
my.
it. And
Whereas
so now,
before, I didn't know what it was. I just knew I was fucking miserable, and I wanted something to make me feel better.
that's it. And you
And
see,
now I know what. Yeah.
and that's the gift, because now when you're going to feel the hole in your soul, you're going to see yourself also.
Yeah.
You're going to see the behavior. You're going to see yourself acting out. And as you're acting out, you're going to like, oh my God, I'm acting out. I'm acting out in order to soothe the hole in your soul. And you're doing it because you can't stop you. You cannot stop
And
yourself.
I don't even need to act out. Like I can know now when it's hitting. When I get
And
a
it's
feeling
just
of like dread or hope,
And bingo,
and I can say
this is
that's
the
what it is.
fucking gift. This is the gift. Page 27. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what I call vital spiritual experiences. And you cast aside, because now common sense does become uncommon sense. That's it. That's what it is all about. Now you're like, oh, I can feel something. Oh, I don't like it. And then you can see yourself wanting to fix yourself, acting out. And this, you understand.
Rather than say, I need something to make it feel better and turning to that thing, I'll know that's the last thing I should do.
Knowledge.
We just read the paragraph at my first ever meeting was in Soto Grande, Greece. So the meeting that you go to on a Sunday, it used to be at a cafe in Torre Guadiaro. And so you're going on Sunday to the first ever meeting that I ever went to.
It's amazing.
And I broke down crying before I even got in the room. I had this huge emotional reaction. I couldn't stop crying. We sat down and they read this chapter from the book that we are reading now. And it was that paragraph that we just read. Here are some of the methods we have tried. Drinking beer only. Number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in one. And I just looked at the person reading and I was like, she's reading this from a book. Like, she's reading how I feel. It's written in a book. What the fuck? And then that's when I realized, like, okay, this is where I was always supposed to be.
And you see, the beautiful gift is this book has been there since 1939.
I know, crazy.
And yet, you know, so many of us are not even given the opportunity to really study it and understand it. So many of us are like, you know, well, the big blue book, the big book, it's there. But you know what? How many of us are lucky enough to doing the program and taking the steps literally through the book? Not many. Not many.
No.
So it is beautiful. And you will see, Robert, as you go along, all of this is going to make more and more sense to you, because the identification is not about the drinking, it's not about the drugging, it's not about the sex. It's literally about the whole inner soul. And that's the identification. When you can identify with that, then you're... All right, let's continue.
Sorry guys, give me 1 minute, I'm just plugging my laptop in. I was trying to do this al fresco, but my laptop has a bit... Okay, cool. Okay, you can quickly diagnose yourself. Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Try to drink and stop abruptly. Try it more than once. It will not take long for you to decide if you are honest with yourself about it. It may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. Though there is no way of proving it, we believe that early in our drinking careers, most of us could have stopped drinking. But the difficulty is that few alcoholics have enough desire to stop while there is yet time. We have heard of a few instances where people who show definite signs of alcoholism were able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so.
Can you highlight, please? We're able to stop for a long period because of an overpowering desire to do so.
Here is one. A man of 30 was doing a great deal of spree drinking. He was very nervous in the morning after these bouts and quieted himself with more liquor. He was ambitious to succeed in business, but saw that he would get nowhere if he drank at all. Once he started, he had no control whatever. He made up his mind that until he had been successful in business and had retired, he would not touch another drop. An exceptional man, he remained bone dry for 25 years and retired at the age of 55 after a successful and happy business career. Then he fell victim to a belief, which practically every alcoholic has, that his long period of sobriety and self-discipline had qualified him to drink as other men. Out came his carpet slippers and a bottle. In 2 months he was in a hospital, puzzled and humiliated. He tried to regulate his drinking for a while, making several trips to the hospital meantime. Then, gathering all his forces, he attempted to stop altogether and found he could not. Every means of solving his problem which money could buy was at his disposal. Every attempt failed. Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years.
Can you highlight, please? Though a robust man at retirement, he went to pieces quickly and was dead within 4 years.
This case contains a powerful lesson. Most of us have believed that if we remain sober for a long stretch, we could thereafter drink normally. But here is a man who at 55 years found he was just where he had left off at 30. We have seen the truth demonstrated again and again. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Can you highlight once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic?
Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we are in a short time as bad as ever. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol.
So again, you know, when you hear, oh, just for today, well, he is telling us again, if you're planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, no any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. It's not a fucking day at a time. It's for life. You need to be honest with people. You have a fucking allergy of the body. When you drink, something happens to you. It's like saying to somebody who's got a nut allergy, well, just for today, you're not going to have some fucking cake with nuts. But tomorrow, well, who knows? Well, no, tomorrow you will still fucking die. So I understand the logic. The logic is like, oh, it's too much to think that tomorrow I won't be able to drink. Well, tell me the fucking truth. I can deal with the truth. I find it very difficult to deal with the bullshit. But if you tell me from the outset, you know, I have a physical allergy and something happens to me in the body each time I pick up alcohol, at least I know, because if you give that brain, my alcoholic brain, that little bit of a chance, then maybe tomorrow I might be able to drink, tomorrow I will drink.
So I'm going to use this opportunity because it says here, no reservation of any kind. And if we're being honest, I'm going to voice one of my reservations. It's a very, very long story and I won't bore you with it. But I mean, I identify that, I mean, my problem has always been cocaine, always. The drink never used to be an issue. It was drugs for so many years. Alcohol when I was younger, even when I first used to drink, it was never an appeal to me. But when I tried cocaine, that was it. And it was only in the last few years, the anxiety effects of coke, because I would dry sniff quite a lot, but my anxiety, it would get to the point where I couldn't sit still, like it was awful. So what I would then do is I experimented with the alcohol, and then I noticed, oh, that got me back to like a nice level where it feels nice. So I would literally sniff, and when I start getting jittery, down a bottle of wine, not even for enjoyment, just to get rid of the jitters, and then get back on the bag, right? So for me, it's all about the coke. So I struggle with saying alcoholic because I don't see it as the problem. I can go away where I can't get coke. I can have a few glasses of wine. I don't feel the need to binge drink it because I'm not doing drugs. So where my brain is saying to me, alcohol's not the problem, it makes you fancy the bad, blah, 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 but I still am reserved. Am I ever going to be able to drink normally without turning to it?
And so the question that I have with you now is honestly and the truth from here. Your truth is when you pick up those first two drinks, does it not trigger the desire, the strong desire you cannot control for the first line?
No, not always, but it's playing with fire. It plays with fire.
But basically, how many times at the end does this trigger the cocaine thing?
Oh, 9 times out of 10.
There we are, bingo. So now you know.
But does it make me an alcoholic or a drug addict though?
Well,
does it matter?
It doesn't matter. They're merely symptoms. It's like, you know, when people present themselves with a sex addiction or a food disorder, they're not alcoholic or they're not drug addict. They are sex addict or they have a problem with sugar, let's say, or gambling.
Yeah.
And I said to them, you know, some people will say, well, you can't drink, you can't do drugs, you can't do, and I'm like, well, no, that's not what we can't approach this. The behavioral, we can't approach it the same way. So, however, what I need to say to them is be careful because as you're going to stop the behavior, the symptom, if you wish, you might start using another symptom. Be the behavioral.
Oh, yeah. I go from shopping, food.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a very simple example. My ex-husband, no problem with alcohol, no problem with drugs, but completely codependent. Codependency, people pleasing. I mean, just
Oh, that's me too. I've got that.
completely addict. He's an addict. And when he started to look into that behavior and started to deal with it, he started using crystal meth. So he switched
Oh,
from one
God.
to the other. How many times have you seen people coming to the rooms? They stop drinking, 6 months later, they fucking balloon. So you switch from
Yeah.
to another. Remember, alcohol is not the problem. Cocaine is not the problem. They're merely symptoms. They are a manifestation of the problem. So we're going to use anything.
And I think it's a red flag as well that I'm already saying, oh, if I solve the coke problem,
Yeah.
drink.
Exactly.
You know, so why am I even thinking about it?
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to find a little way around.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for a substance that I can somehow use.
Yeah, exactly.
But I shouldn't even need the substance in the first place, right?
Bingo. Because you see, if we go back to the hole in the soul and being emotionally recovered, then there's no more of that. So you see,
for anything.
The thing is, we've used different coping mechanisms, we've used different symptoms in order to fill the hole in the soul. How about not using anything at all? How about being and not having that hole in the soul anymore?
Yeah, it's a thought that's actually so alien.
Program and carry the message.
Yeah.
But it's important to be honest about it. It's important to share that honestly and say, you know, but what about, you know, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I have a problem with cocaine. But remember what led you to the cocaine.
Yeah, and it does still.
What about
sorry, and just to sort of, I guess try and like reflect back what I was saying before, like in relation to that, like it is always that idea that maybe I can have whatever it is and manage. But the other way to sort of look at it is to say, well, wouldn't it be nice if I just felt all right with myself?
Yeah, the fact that you're saying how to manage.
Yeah. And it's like,
if you're all right with yourself, you will not need to go and fuck your brains out with sex and with booze and with drugs. You might have a drink. You might have a couple of drinks with friends, but that would be it. If you feel like
it wouldn't even cross your mind, like.
Well, you will.
That we just read as well. We read it's the obsession of every abnormal drinker that he will one day drink like his fellows. It's the obsession of every abnormal drinker that he will one day drink like his fellows. And that was like live.
You're thinking that.
You saw that. In live on air, we just saw the insanity of that in you. I promise cocaine though. Could I have 2 drinks? It's the obsession of every abnormal drinker. Just 2!
That's it. I'm going out for 2. A normal drinker goes
always 2, isn't it? Always 2.
You know, I used to say I'm going to have a cheeky line. You know, not a I used to go the big one, they were Manchester line, nearly half a gram into 1 line, just to get me started. I mean, you know, the insanity, and I'm not going to have a big one, I'm just going to have a cheeky line. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
actually makes my stomach go when you talk about it, like it makes it slip over. I don't know what it is. It's almost fear. It's fear, disgust, and excitement. Do you know what I mean? It's the weirdest.
Oh, I know, and it's one of those things. You know, the beautiful gift about this program. There will be a time when that idea, when you think about it, will be like of disgust. It won't be of pleasure.
I mean, it is of disgust mixed with other emotions still.
Oh yeah, normal. It's normal.
Yeah.
But we need to have this conversation. We need to be able, you know, as we go through the program. That's why we need to unmute. This is not a meeting. We need to cross-chair. We don't need to put the hands up. We need to talk.
Yeah, because we don't get to do this in the actual meetings,
This is what it is all about. We are studying the book. And by studying the book, my interpretation of the words might be different from yours. My experience is different from yours. And we need to bounce on each other's ideas. And this is what I've said from the beginning. And as we go through the program, this is what we need to do. And because you see, this is beautiful to be able to question ourselves and ask and say, do you feel the same? And how did that happen for you? And then I'm going to tell you about my personal experience. But remember, my personal experience is my personal experience. It's not the program. The program is the truth. My personal experience is personal to me. It's not your truth. It's my truth. And you see, as we go along, we keep, because this is all the understanding and the knowledge that you acquire as we go through the program is what's giving you that spiritual awakening, that change that you need is part of it. Okay.
Right, where were we?
Sorry, and I love what you just said, Jasmine, because it's so true. We just read the fucking line. You know, that's the obsession of the alcoholic to be a normal drinker. That's it. Bingo, we got it. Right. Okay. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Young people.
Oh yeah. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop, as he did, on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who'd been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. This is particularly true of women.
Okay, can you highlight all of these, please? Several of our crowds, men of 30 or less, have been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless, as those who have been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time not to take the quantities some of us have. And I worked with a guy about 10 years ago, very young. Funny because he didn't have any defect of character when we got to step 6 and 7, which I absolutely loved. But he is one of those people, the phenomenon of craving began from the beginning. At the very beginning, his first drink, he had the phenomenon of craving. So when he had one drink, it couldn't stop. And so when he was at university, he was taking 3 days on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. He was buying the booze, staying in his room, and for 3 days, he was just drinking non-stop. And then from 3 days to 4 days and 5 days, life became completely unmanageable. But this is one of the people whose phenomenon of craving just developed immediately. First drink, boom, at a very, very young age. So for some of us, for me, I was never dependent. But it's taken a number of years for the phenomenon of craving to develop all the time, for me to become literally a blackout drinker. It's taken a long time. That's why it's baffling, cunning, and powerful. I'm like, this time I'm going to make it. This time I'm going to be, and at the end, I just knew I was panicking. I would remember my whole life. I was in my flat and I was looking out by the window, and I knew I was going out with friends, and I was wondering, what the fuck is going to happen to me tonight? Because I don't know what's going to happen. Because I knew the phenomenon of craving, which I didn't know at the time what it was, but I knew I would be blacking out again. No control, and I knew I was going to go out and it was going to happen, but I had no defense. Incredible. Okay.
This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers, who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics, are astonished at their inability to stop. We, who are familiar with the symptoms, see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere, but try and get them to see it. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. If he is a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is a scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remain sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether.
And you highlight,
We
for
are
those who
assuming
are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. And can you write in the margin, RTFM. Read the fucking manual. You will know how to stop altogether because they're giving you the clear-cut directions.
We are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish.
Can you highlight, this is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. I said I will never do it again, and I did it. I promise I will not do it. The necessity, it's nearly killed me, and yet people are dying from cirrhosis and they can't leave it alone.
How then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously that is the root of the problem.
Okay, can you highlight? So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede the relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. We know the head is the problem. The obsession of the mind is literally what leads us to the first drink. Okay.
What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He is a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He is an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum he came into contact with us. We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning.
Oh, can you highlight? Made a beginning. And can you write in the margin, completed the program? And I will show you where I know he completed the program. So remember, the steps are merely the beginning. The steps are there for one purpose only. When you complete the step, that's it. Then you practice the design for living. And what is the purpose of the step again?
Remove the obsession.
That's it, to remove the obsession. So he made a beginning. Obsession removed. Let's continue.
His family was reassembled and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession.
Okay, can you highlight? All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. Can you underline, he failed to enlarge his spiritual life? What does that mean? What did he not do?
He did a design for living.
Bingo! He didn't practice the design for living, which means he didn't carry the message, didn't practice the principle, and certainly did not practice his assets. Can you write that in the margin, guys? Because this is so important.
On each of these occasions we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in a serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had a deep affection. Yet he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned.
Okay, stop. What is the keyword?
Irritated.
Can you highlight? I felt irritated. So when I'm restless, irritable, and discontent, what happens?
You want hole in the soul.
You want to soothe. You want to soothe the hole in the soul. So he felt irritated. Let's continue. Let's see what happens.
I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar for I'd been going to it for years. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at the table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Suddenly the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk. I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk.
Okay, can you start and highlight everything because it's in italics, it's expensive. Suddenly the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it wouldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered the whiskey and poured it into my milk. I vaguely sensed that I was not being too smart, but felt reassured I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. So you see here, he had a lovely day. Everything, he says, I had eaten there many times during the month I was sober. So here we got an idea that he has been sober, everything is fine, and he has a desire. Boom. He has a desire, but remember, he was irritated a little bit, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, continue.
Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in fact with the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk.
Okay, can you highlight all of this? Because this is in italic also, and this is where we know that he's completed the program, because he has much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic.
Yeah.
All the reason, the twofold illness for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he will take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk.
I had a moment where I had like a gym moment. I remember that I'd read that bit in the book, and I was thinking about this barbecue restaurant in Nottingham that I'd been to before, and they had these different milkshakes, and each flavour of milkshake had an accompanying shot. And the banana milkshake, they had a shot of JD, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never going to get to try that milkshake with the shot in it. Like, oh my god, and then I thought, well, it's just a milkshake, so like just one shot in the milkshake, and then instantly I was like, well, I'll make it a double, because if I'm going to have the milkshake, like I might as well make it a double shot. And then my mind went to, and maybe I have like a Jack and Coke after to like stay with the Jack Daniels theme. And then if you could step back and thought, fucking hell, Justin, in 5 seconds it's just one milkshake with one shot, then it's a double, then I'm on the JD and Coke. And it's like, I am Jim, what the fuck?
It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing.
It's insanity.
But you see, and when you think about that, when you have that obsession, remember that it's exactly the same thing with the behavioral. The behavioral, which is the sex, the sugar. I mean, that guy who is, I was listening to a program on LBC the other day, and the guy's got diabetes. He's got literally life-saving injection in the fridge. And instead of taking his medication, he took the chocolate. And he binged on the chocolate, and then he went on the sofa crying, knowing he should have not done it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Exactly the same. The insanity is just baffling. Anyway, okay, let's continue.
Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity.
Can you highlight? We
How
call
can
it
such
plain insanity.
How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? You may think this is an extreme case. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences. But there was always the curious mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning, there inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how could it happen.
Okay, can you highlight? Next day, we will ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how it could have happened.
The next day, I would be so beside myself and so regretful, and I'd feel like that for days, and then it would just wear off, and I'd go back and do the same shit.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. In some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for us three was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened.
Can you highlight? But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for us three was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened.
We now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious reflective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be.
Okay, can you highlight? So we now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be.
Yeah.
We do it to fix the hole in the soul. That's all it is. So we're not thinking of the consequences. We need to fix how it feels. So we're not thinking of anything else.
Yeah. Our behaviour is as absurdly comprehensible with respect to the first drink as that of an individual with a passion, say, for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having queer ideas of fun. Luck then deserts him and he's slightly injured several times in succession. You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out. Presently, he is hit again and this time has a fractured skull. Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast-moving trolley car breaks his arm. He tells you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good, but in a few weeks he breaks both legs. On through the years, his conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work, his wife gets a divorce, and he is held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways. But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine, which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? You may think our illustration is too ridiculous. But is it?
Can you highlight? You may think our illustration is too ridiculous, but is it?
We who have been through the ringer have to admit, if we substitute alcoholism for jaywalking, the illustration would fit us exactly. However intelligent we may have been in other respects, where alcohol has been involved, we have been strangely insane. It's strong language, but isn't it true?
Can you highlight, however intelligent we may have been in other respect, where alcohol has been involved, we have been strangely insane. It's strong language, but isn't it true?
Some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply. We admit we have some of these symptoms, but we have not gone to the extremes you fellows did, nor are we likely to. For we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such things cannot happen again. Ah, that's mental. We have not lost everything in life through drinking, and we certainly do not intend to, thanks to the information. That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at the present time, are able to stop and moderate because their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge.
Can you highlight, but the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge?
I always used to think if I built up enough knowledge on it that I could crack it myself. I was convinced.
So
Even when I came out of rehab, my excuse for getting on it the first night was, look, I've had 6 weeks off. I really deserve it. I've been in intense therapy. I know what to look out for. I'm going to be fine. And it was the worst relapse of my entire life.
I can
It was
imagine.
awful.
But it says, self-knowledge avails us absolutely fuck all.
Because it all goes out. Because I can't even think like me when I'm in that state. My brain is.
And remember, my solution is to go back to it all the time, no matter what. So as much knowledge as I have, if I rely only on my knowledge, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Were you offended as well, Gracie, when you read step 2? Like when I read step 2, that come to believe in a higher power would restore me to sanity. I was like, I'm not insane, guys. I think you're a little bit dramatic. Like, having no idea of how insane I actually was.
Oh no, I've been aware that
Really?
I'm a bit odd for a few years now. So.
Well, when you have no friends left and no job and nothing left, you just.
And that's where it did go. I was on the brink of both. Yeah.
Yeah, you start to think, okay, you know what? I've resigned again. No, Billy, you didn't resign. You were going to get sacked again. And that is the insanity. And you're fucking insane because you couldn't keep a fucking job. You always say, no, I resign. Well, you knew you were going to be sacked if you went back anyway. So that's it. That was my way out. And that was my own insanity. But no, I'm okay. No, I'm not insane at all.
Oh, amazing.
Okay, this is a point we wish to emphasise and re-emphasise, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. Let us take another illustration. Fred is partner in a well-known accounting firm.
Okay, just for your personal information, Fred is actually not Fred. Fred is Harry Brick, B-R-I-C-K.
His income is good, he has a fine home, is happily married and the father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is a stable, well-balanced individual. Yet, he is an alcoholic. We first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of jitters. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was an alcoholic, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. The doctor intimated strongly that he may be worse than he realised. For a few days he was depressed about his condition. He made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so in spite of his character and standing. Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem.
Can you highlight, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem?
We told him what we knew about alcoholism. He was interested and conceded that he had some of the symptoms, but he was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience, plus the knowledge he had acquired, would keep him sober for the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it.
Can you highlight, self-knowledge will fix it?
We heard no more of Fred for a while. One day we were told he was back in the hospital. This time he was quite shaky. He soon indicated he was anxious to see us. The story he told is most instructive. Here was a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, but had no excuse for drinking, but exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all his concerns, yet was flat on his back nevertheless. Let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I frankly did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. Sorry. But I was confident it could not happen to me after what I had learned. I reasoned I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows, that I had been hugely successful in licking my other personal problems, and that I would therefore be successful where you men failed. I felt I had every right to be self-confident, that it would be only a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. In this frame of mind, I went about my business, and for time all was well. I had no trouble refusing drinks, and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. One day I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a governance bureau. I had been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Physically, I felt fine. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew my partners would be too. It was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. I went to my hotel and leisurely dressed for dinner. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room, the thought came to mind that it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all, nothing more.
Can you highlight all of that? I went to my hotel and leisurely dressed for dinner. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room, the thought, a desire came to mind that it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all, nothing more. So just a desire. But of course, if you haven't got a solution...
I ordered a cocktail and my meal. Then I ordered another cocktail. After dinner, I decided to take a walk. When I returned to the hotel, it struck me a highball would be fine before going to bed. So I stepped into the bar and had one. I remember having several more that night and plenty next morning. I have a shadowy recollection of being in an airplane bound for New York and of finding a friendly taxicab driver at the landing field instead of my wife. The driver escorted me about for several days. I know little of where I went or what I said and did. Then came the hospital with unbearable mental and physical suffering. As soon as I regained my ability to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington. Not only had I been off guard, I had made no fight whatsoever against the first drink. This time I had not thought of the consequences at all.
Okay, can you highlight? So not only have I been off guard, I've made no fight whatever against the first drink. This time I had not thought of the consequences at all. So literally a desire, no thinking of what the consequences could be, because, just having a desire and acting on a desire.
That was me the entire time. Every time.
Are these stories all stories of relapses that happened to people who had done the 12 steps?
So he had not completed the steps.
They just had knowledge of their alcoholism.
Yes, they met him in a hospital and they told him about the program of recovery. They told him about the obsession of the mind and the physical allergy.
All three people.
Sorry?
So Fred, Jim...
No, one of them had completed the program. One of them completed the program, but he didn't practice the design for living.
Okay, and the other two knew they were alcoholics.
Yeah.
They'd spoken to Bill.
They've spoken to Bill W., Dr. Bob, or maybe one of the 101.
Right, okay, so all three of them had been in the hospital. They knew what Dr. Bob had told them.
That's right.
They weren't.
Some of them did the program of recovery, so did the steps as they did at the time, because they literally did the steps on the bed, in a hospital, most of them. Yeah. And some of them were given all the information and left it at that. Right. And then they found themselves in a hospital again.
And then relapse, of course. So these are the stories of the relapses of people that had been in the hospital, knew they were alcoholics. One of them had actually done the steps, but they weren't practicing the principles. They weren't practicing the design for living.
That's right.
And they relapsed. Yeah. Okay.
I had commenced to drink as carelessly as though the cocktails were ginger ale. I now remembered what my alcoholic friends had told me, how they prophesied that if I had an alcoholic mind, the time and place would come, I would drink again. They had said that though I did raise a defence, it would one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink.
Can you highlight? They had said that though I did raise a defence, it will one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink.
Well, just that did happen and more. For I had learned of alcoholism, did not occur to me at all. I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those strange mental blank spots.
Okay, can you highlight? So I saw that willpower and self-knowledge will not help in the strange mental blank spots.
Yeah. I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. I knew then it was a crushing blow.
Can you highlight different color? It was a crushing blow.
2 of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to see me. They grinned, which I didn't like so much, and then asked me if I thought myself an alcoholic and if I were really licked this time. I had to concede both propositions. They piled on me heaps of evidence to the effect that an alcoholic mentality such as I had exhibited in Washington was a hopeless condition. They cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen. This process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction that I could do the job myself. Then they outlined the spiritual answer and program of action which 100 of them had followed successfully. Though I had been only a nominal churchman, their proposals were not intellectually hard to swallow. But the program of action, though entirely sensible, was pretty drastic. It meant I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window. That was not easy. But the moment I made up my mind to go through with the process, I had the curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be.
Okay, can you highlight all of this? So then they outlined the program, the spiritual answer and program of action, which 100 of them had followed successfully all the way to, I had the curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be. And I would like you to underline, it meant I will have to throw several lifelong conceptions out the window. That was not easy. And can you write in a margin, page 27, where you've underlined? And Jasmine, can you, when you're done with that, can you turn your book to page 27 and tell me, can you read for us, the little paragraph we highlighted? Because here they're telling us, it meant I will have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window. That was not easy. So what are the several lifelong conceptions out of the window? Read page 27 for us, the little paragraph.
27. I've highlighted quite a bit on that page.
Here and there.
Okay.
Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what I call vital spiritual experiences.
Page 27?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
You can't
It starts with yes, replied the doctor, and then if you
okay,
right, and then here and there.
Okay. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men were suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them.
That's right. That's it. It mean I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window. That was not easy. Everything that basically we have inside of us, our coping mechanism, all the stuff we've used, we're going to have to cast it to one side and let new stuff coming in. So just basically what we're doing, being open to the illness model, the obsession of the mind, restless, being irritable, discontent, the phenomenon of craving, allowing all those things to become more of a reality. Also acknowledging our defect of character, our old coping mechanism, how we used to, like you talked about alcohol, how we just switch from one booze to another, or one glass of water, one whiskey, or thinking about just having a glass of milk with a little bit of whiskey, or a milkshake with a little bit of vodka for that matter. You know, all of those things which just make sense to us how we deal with things, casting everything to one side and allowing new conceptions to come through. That's how we bring about the spiritual awakening. Okay, continue.
Quite as important was the discovery
Wait,
that
one sec, sorry.
Sure.
We underlined it meant I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window.
Yes,
What
that's
do you-
right. We highlighted the whole thing, but we
Yeah.
underlined it meant I will have to throw several lifelong conception out of the window. That was not easy, and write page 27. So when you carry the message, you go back to page 27 and you reinforce the message. In order to bring about a spiritual awakening, we need to cast aside the all lifelong conception, you know, what we believe to be right.
Yeah.
Nah, not, you know, common sense versus become uncommon sense.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Okay.
Quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems.
Can you highlight? Quite as important was discovery that the spiritual principle will solve all my problems, not just the drink problem. All my problems.
I've since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and, I hope, more useful than the life I lived before.
Can you highlight how it's been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and I hope more useful than the life I lived before?
My old manner of life was by no means a bad one, but I would not exchange its best moments for the worst I have now. I would not go back to it even if I could.
Can you highlight? I will not exchange its best moment for the worst I have now. I will not go back even if I could. And you see, I often say that, and I know it's repeated often in the rooms, that I will not trade the worst day that I have today in recovery. I will not even trade it for the best days that I had when I was using. Never.
Fred's story speaks for itself. We hope it strikes home to thousands like him. He had felt only the first nip of the ringer. Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. Yeah. Many doctors and psychiatrists agree with our conclusions. One of these men, staff member of a world-renowned hospital, recently made a statement to some of us. What you say about the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic's plight is, in my opinion, correct. As to two of you men whose stories I have heard, there is no doubt in my mind that you are 100% hopeless apart from divine help.
Okay, can you highlight? As to two of you men whose stories I've heard, there is no doubt in my mind that you were 100% hopeless apart from a divine help. So what does that mean to be hopeless again?
Restless, irritable, discontent.
Yeah, but it means that you have what?
Twofold illness.
The twofold illness. Yeah, that's right. Just that you know, guys, a staff member of the world-renowned hospital, his name was Dr. Percy Pollick, Pollick.
Okay. Had you offered yourselves as patients at this hospital, I would not have taken you if I had been able to avoid it. People like you are too heartbreaking. Though not a religious person, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most cases, there is virtually no other solution.
Can you highlight? For most cases, there's virtually no other solution.
And Percy Pollick said this.
Many doctors and psychiatrists agree with our conclusion that these men, basically, they're hopeless. They are absolutely hopeless. There's no, like the good doctor Sickworth say, you know, they are hopeless type of alcoholics and there's nothing I can do with them really.
Yeah.
And it was until Bill W. was actually in contact with Abby Thatcher, who gave him the solution. So he had the problem. He knew the problem because of Dr. D. Sickworth. But then when he was able to put the solution and the problem together, he recovered. And the good doctor said, my God, you know, it's better than what you were before. So embrace it. And they saw it themselves that it worked because the guys, Dr. Bob and Bill W. were carrying the message in that specific hospital. Okay.
Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being provides such a defense. His defense must come from the higher power.
Can you highlight his defense must come from a higher power? Well, congratulations. You've completed your step 1. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. So continue with your gratitude list, guys. Remember, next week I will be in Canada. Never mind, I will still be able to carry the message. So we'll continue. I think it will be probably 2 in the afternoon for me. But for you, oh no, a little bit earlier than that. But for you, women's 4 p.m. London time.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Thanks,
Good night,
everyone.
guys.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Cheers,
All the
guys.
best.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.